you think you're safe at an amusement park? You better think again. The hidden dangers might shock you.
I'ma keep it real with you.
Number one is mechanical failure. This is where, typically speaking, an agent of the park or someone who works there is not properly maintaining their equipment, they're not making sure everything is safe, and they're not making things adequately secure to make sure the patrons are free from harm. This is the one that pains me the most because it's the most easily avoidable. Number two is operator error or human error, where people are just not paying attention. They're being lackadaisical, lack of training, lack of proper supervision, right? Where the park is not doing its job to make sure the agents, the kids that are working the rides, are doing their jobs. Number three is improper safety measures. In this situation, the agents from the park are just not utilizing the proper safety standards. Is the equipment functioning properly? Are the seat belts up to standard? Is the equipment worn out? Does it need to be re-inspected? Many times they're not taking the time to ask these basic questions, leading to injury of patrons. Number four is slip and falls. If the agents of a park do not know about a condition, it is not readily available to them, that they haven't had an opportunity to clean up or fix it, they will have that as their defense with regards to why an injury was not prevented. So what are the immediate steps you need to take after an injury does occur? Number one, first and foremost, always seek medical attention if it's necessary. If you think you're injured or you think you've suffered an injury, make sure you deal with it. I've seen situations many times where my clients, oh, it's okay, that arm is not going to be that bad, and they make their injury significantly worse. Unfortunately, I've seen injuries that clients did not know about, such as hematomas, for example, where there's a brain bleed, and a client unfortunately did not know how severe their injury was, and then a couple of days later ended up in the hospital or worse. And I've had this happen to me on at least one occasion. So guys, when you get injured, take it very seriously. Don't take it for granted. So, it's the weirdest thing, right? Where you talk to a client one day and they're okay, they're telling you about their injuries and what's happened to them, and yeah, I think I'm okay, I'm gonna go get it checked out, and they blow it off. Then a couple of days later, you get contacted by a family member saying, your client is... Why? Because they did not know the severity of their injury. It was internal in nature. In this situation I'm talking about, this person was bleeding internally, did not know about it. They laid down. The next time in the morning, they woke up, the family member woke up, and that other family member was dead. Number two, you have to report the incident. If you're going to suggest that someone else is responsible, you need to put them on notice. Typically speaking, going to speak to management, getting an incident report, getting something on the record that an incident did occur, you were injured, and in your mind, you believe that they're responsible. Okay, number three is really important, gathering evidence, okay? Taking pictures as to what's going on, getting the names of witnesses, getting information as to when it happened, where it happened, getting the details to remember, because at this particular point when something has happened, that is when your memory is going to be at its best with regards to remembering the details you might need to know 6 months from now. So make sure you're gathering evidence as related to your accident. Number four, preserving documentation. If it's something related to that accident, one of the things I always recommend to my clients, get a folder together, right? So you can have information in one place as related to what happened, what occurred, who you spoke to, where it happened. Put those details and that information together in one spot, so when you need to refer to it, when you talk with your attorney, when you talk to the insurance company, when you talk to anybody else, you have that information all together and it's somewhat organized. If you made it this far in the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you really think about what's going on. So next, it's really important that you understand exactly what your legal rights are and what the obligations are to the park, for example, if indeed you did get significantly injured. Let's talk about it. Number one, duty of care. When you go to an amusement park, they have a duty to make sure that your experience is as safe as it possibly can be. If in fact they fail this, they have breached that duty to you, and consequently, you can have an action against them for that breach for any resulting injuries as related to your injury. Number two is defining liability issues. So it's my contention as a plaintiff's attorney that the second you step onto the premises of that amusement park has a duty to make sure that your experience is safe, secure, and that you have a good time. If they breach this duty because of an act of negligence, because of an act of lack of care, by failing to warn you of certain things, then they've breached that duty to you, and that you then have a potential for a significant action against that particular park. The amusement park is also going to be responsible for any third-party vendors that are working there, that are contracting there, that are selling equipment there, that are providing services there. They're going to be responsible for their actions. And if that third party breaches that duty, creates an injury, then in that situation, at least in my opinion, you're going to have an action against that third-party vendor as well as the amusement park, because the amusement park has a duty to make sure their premises is safe. It happened on their land. They made the deal with this third-party contractor, so they're going to be responsible for their actions. Now, typically speaking, they're going to make sure that their third-party vendors have contracts and insurance and everything else. But if I'm representing a particular client, I'm suing everybody who's potentially responsible and make them prove that they were free of negligence and that they did not do anything wrong in the process that led to my client's injury. Number three is the important issue of waivers. So I do understand the waiver, and you've got a document there that you signed and you've given up your rights and now you can't sue them. If you've suffered a significant injury and I can show that it was due to the negligence of the amusement park or their agents or their third parties, I'm going to take that waiver. I'm going to review it. I'm going to discuss it with my client, and we're still going to sue the shit out of them and get my client paid. Here's your waiver. The next thing you're probably going to have to do if you've suffered that significant injury is to figure out what's the best way for you and your family to navigate the legal system. What do I mean by that? Number one is choosing the right lawyer. If you suffered a significant injury, one thing I always tell clients is, look, get a specialist to assist you, okay? Someone who you can listen to, someone who's gonna hear you, someone who's been doing this for a long time, someone who's gonna get you the damages that you believe you're entitled to. I'm telling you, if you've been doing this as long as I have, one thing you will know is clients, typically speaking, get 2 or 3 times as much money going with a good lawyer as opposed to going without. Next there, after you've selected a lawyer, then you've got to move forward with the legal process of sorts. And what does that entail? That entails with us as attorneys then putting the amusement park on notice as to what's going on, by letting them know that the extent of the injuries that my client has, by talking to them in a pre-litigation standpoint with regards to, hey, look, here's what the situation is, here's what we've got, here's what we're suggesting we need from you to make this case go away, and hoping that it resolves at that stage. Typically speaking, they're going to fight back, they're not going to want to offer enough, and what we're going to have to do from there is to file a lawsuit. After we file the lawsuit, then we typically conduct some kind of discovery where we ask each other a bunch of questions. Both sides get to assess their level of risk, and then in most situations at that level, the case gets resolved. If it doesn't, it might move forward with regards to a mediation process, whereas we get to sit down with the other side, talk about the strengths of our cases, the weaknesses of our cases, and see if there's some kind of a middle ground to get it done. If those matters don't resolve themselves, then you're potentially looking at trial. If a case does go to trial, it many times takes several years, but don't worry about that, guys. That should not be an issue for you, because 9 times out of 10, cases of this nature get settled each and every day. And 99.9% of clients do not have to see the inside of a courtroom. One of the things that clients always ask me, hey, what is my case worth? What is my injury worth? Well, it all depends. How injured were you? What is the extent of your injuries? Is there going to be significant issues in the future? Well, one of the things that we've got to do is figure out your entire damage model, put all of the numbers together to figure out exactly what the experts, what the doctors, and those people involved in the situation believe that your injuries suggest it should be worth. Once we get all that information together, then I get with you as the client, and I give you my legal expertise with regards to the valuation of it. And then from there, we can figure out what the numbers need to look like. I know it's really important for you to know from the very beginning, what is your case worth? But until we get into the nitty gritty, until you visited with the doctors, seen those specialists, and we've had a chance to really assess the situation, no one can tell you exactly what your case is worth without getting more specifically into the detail of things, right? I can give you a guess, but until we have the data and the information and the expert reports, nobody can give you a very accurate number. Guys, I love going to the amusement parks and I love taking crazy risks, right? And I love screaming and yelling and everything else that goes along with it. But one of the things you've got to do is do things in a safe manner, because it makes no sense to go out and have fun, but you don't come home safe. So make sure you're listening, paying attention, following the rules, making sure you've done your research, and making sure that the park is also doing what they're supposed to be doing to protect yourself and your family. If you do those things, let's cross our fingers and hope that you go to the amusement, have a great time, and you come home just as safely. I'm Attorney D. Miller, Mr. Thrill Seeker himself. Don't you forget to like, comment, subscribe. This is DLAW.